Every time we do a boat wiring video, we try to bring it. We try to give an upgrade. This boat is about as big of an upgrade you can get when it comes to wiring. Last video we showed you the deck and the mechanics, but this time we show you how we plugged it all in so it actually looks like this. All the wiring and how we did it with an actual pontoon boat versus our regular standard tiny boat. And last but not least, we finally get a test drive of what this thing is capable of on the water. Will it perform as expected, or will adjustments need to be made? We're about to find out what this thing's made of. Quick shout out to all of our sponsors who have made this project possible. We could not have done it without you, and a huge shout out to our TBNation Outdoors locations, both of which came down to Illinois and teamed up to do this project. We're also pleased to say that we have now finally met a demand from our audience and made our own electric kits. We now have all those parts, fuse blocks, bus bars, cutoff switches, all those annoying components that you need in conjunction with wire. We have it all now. So check those things out in the description or pin in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to check out our company channel and subscribe to TBNation Outdoors. If you missed the last video, we retrofitted the deck on this 12-foot Pond-Tini to have a whole custom foam layout. Now we're ready to install all the big stuff. That includes the brand new jack plate, an all-electric outboard, the battery packs, the trolling motor, the nav system, and all the wiring, and tons of LEDs. If you're familiar with OnTheFly jack plates, they made a jack plate all-electric that is completely autonomous from any other unit in the boat.
I'm gonna need a countersink bit too.
Pond-Tini has an all-welded transom bracket placed well above the deck. It's going to work great for any motor not needing a jack plate, but to install this jack plate, we're going to have to install our own little panel there. So we make a bottom bracket down here, and then we just get a piece of aluminum and secure it like so. We can actually have a serviceable mount to get this jack plate on. OnTheFly jack plates is known for making the only unit to date that you can manually adjust while motoring out on the fly. Now they have made one unit that's completely autonomous per their customer base, where you don't actually have to wire the jack plate to anything, you can just use it.
Got him.
Sweet.
Need him to the side on four of these.
That's pretty high. You're gonna need, oh, you got it? EPropulsion came out big to sponsor this project. They held nothing back. They gave us 2 of their best battery packs for this application, 2 batteries that could power a house for a few days. Will now power one of their top electric outboards out there to date. The EPropulsion Navy 6.0 was the most sought after electric motor during the TEC when we went to film it. They gave 2 of them away and everybody wanted one. Now we have one to put on this boat. It is the equivalent of a 99 horsepower outboard, which should kick this boat around at a cruising speed fairly nicely. The battery packs fit perfectly on the back of the pontoon behind the seats, as if they were meant to just go there. So we go along at how we're going to be able to install those and keep them there securely. Ronnie does this by making his own brackets that he formed and bent with a brake and is now going to polish and paint, and then add a layer of EVA foam to keep them snug in place. I live down in Lake Havasu, where there are tons of boats pimped out with these LEDs, and it look fantastic at night. The RGB setups, the underground lights. Well, Plashlights stepped up big. Plashlights, arguably the best, most durable lights on the market today, hooked us up big and allowed us to really make this boat pop. It's one thing to make it pop during the day, but when you see it later on at night, it is something to be seen. They even hooked us up with some of their marine grade silicone, which we use to attach these lights to aluminum, which we have done in the past with like non-marine grade silicone on way less quality lights, and it still works pretty good. So their whole setup here it's going to work fantastic. We're securing it in place with painter's tape, which when the stuff sets and when it dries, we pull it all off and it's going to be there. It is on video. I told you it would look good. Nobody believed me, except for Turk. What separates Plashlights from any other waterproof LED on the market is the quality. The layer, the coating they put over the LED to make it waterproof is substantially thicker than anything you'll find on Amazon or any other standard LED. It will also not yellow or discolor over time. And unlike any other LED on the market, these come with a full lifetime warranty. The bigger thing about this application is that you need to make sure the lights are secure and you need to give it time to cure correctly or you will have problems because it'll start to lump and stick and you'll have uneasiness if you have to reapply it with silicone. You'll keep adding layers. They also gave us these awesome lights that you can either mount on top of your deck with their own little encasing, or you can take it out and just flush mount them inside the frame if you want to do it that way. That's the way we chose to do, and they're just nice, really bright floodlights for the front. We also installed their underwater LEDs in the front pod we made for the live well and in the back as well, next to the motor. Ronnie is all done with the battery straps. They are all in and secured. Those batteries do not move, and the motor is also secured on there, and we are ready to go for it as soon as we wire it all and make sure it all works, and that's coming up. Everything is mounted in place and the lights look great, but nothing is actually wired to anything. And that is where this job starts to drag, because that will be tedious. And we have never wired a pontoon boat ever. Hey guys and gals, just a brief reminder that this video is brought to you by our store, TBNation.net, and also a huge shout out to our sponsors who have made this build possible. If you like what they have brought here and you like the products shown, please show them your appreciation by leaving a like and a comment. It helps out more than you'll ever know to get the word out for these companies. Also, let us know how you think we're doing as far as installing these things, what you would have done differently, how you think the products are doing, some things you think we should have added in. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Thank you. Also, as mentioned in the last video, this boat is being given away, so please remember to click the registration link down in the description area and the comments section and register for the giveaway if you think this boat is something you want. Now, regarding the trolling motor, we chose a Minn Kota power drive, specifically so we could put a Pronav marine system on it. We could have just got the power drive with the iPilot option to it, but then we would have lost the foot pedal, and there's a million reasons why I could tell you that's a bad idea. Not to mention that Pronav Marine's Angler system here is far superior to the standard iPilot and is very comparable, if not better, than the iPilot Link. In so much that it's a little bit easier to use. It has gain settings for different types of watercraft, all the way from a kayak to a regular sized bass boat. And the entire unit can be ran, calibrated, and tuned directly from your phone. You don't even need a remote, but you can get an additional remote if running it from your phone is not something you want to do. I think the Pronav power drive beats the equivalent Altera with iPilot Link, and for anybody that has a power drive stock on their boat, this is absolutely an add-on you want immediately. There's just one problem. The winch post has this elevated spot here that we're most certain is going to damage the trolling motor when we try to put it back on the trailer. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it off.
Got him!
Hey guys, if this video series does well, we'll make enough money to buy Nate a bandsaw and they'll never have to watch something like that ever again. Anyways, on to the wiring. Some things about this will be a lot easier. For one, it's all underneath the boat, so we don't have to go through any open voids and make walls and do any of that stuff. The bad news is, it's underneath the boat, which causes a whole different set of issues. For one, we're gonna have to drill a hole right into the deck, right through the floor, and then run wires up that, and figure out a way to waterproof all that mess. We're currently labeling wires for everything we need, just labeling with painter's tape and a marker, and then running them up the hole so they can get organized. This is just the initial cleanup. We'll eventually have to come back and connect all the RGB wires and run them up and then probably re-clean this up. So that's a big thing about wiring. You might have to redo the cleanup over and over again. Everything kind of slows down once you start wiring. All of us had pretty good momentum, and then you just do all of this. This is a 12-volt trolling motor, and we ran 8-gauge wire all the way through. And always remember to run the heat shrink tubing over the wire before you crimp down. That way you can just slide it over and heat shrink it all together. We use this braided sleeving, but it was not the closed. It was like open. It was spliced. So you could just fit it around any group of wires you needed to, and it looks much cleaner and a lot easier to use than kind of the plastic corrugated stuff. It's pretty good stuff to use. Also, the plastic zip ties. You want the plastic HDP ones, not the clear nylon ones, because those will just crack in the weather. All down to the RGB. We had 4 sets, and we linked all 4 of those wires together. I mean, 4 red, 4 green, 4 blue, and there was a white wire and a black wire. Linked them all together. Once you group them all, go ahead and use a butt connector on just one side. We were able to get away with a 14 gauge butt connector. You might go to the yellow, to the 12/10 gauge, might give you a little bit more room. But anyways, only crimp one side of that butt connector, leave the other side open, because you will have to run 5 extra wires. So they can all be the same color, but you'll have to label them red, white, black, blue, green. 5 extra wires for these 5 extra leads. And once you connect those 5 wires to these groups of RGB wires, and those are all clearly labeled so you can put them to the right connector, because this is going to a Bluetooth connector, no, Bluetooth remote from Plashlight. That's where those 5 wires are going to go. Those 5 wires are going to connect to the 5 wires directly to the RGB remote, which is Bluetooth compatible and able to be ran through by a phone. If you just so happen to have an RGB color scheme of marine gray wire around you in the garage, then great. Otherwise, you can just use, all red wire, obviously black for the ground, and white if you have it. Just label them clearly. I would use a label maker, but I don't have one. For whatever reason, this shop, in existence in 2 years, still can't get a label maker. This shop also doesn't believe in ratcheting crimpers for butt connectors. I know somebody's going to say something. Just so you know, I also know, but, well, I can't travel with all my tools in a plane. However bad you think this looks, it looks like an absolute nightmare up top. So we're just going to try and organize this in sleeving and get it all pieced together and run it up that hole, so at least that's out of the way. Meanwhile, while I tackle the bottom, Ronnie and Trick switch off on the top to run the wires and get them going. Eventually, Ronnie just takes over and stays up there and just adds to the massive amount of wires coming in. It seems like more and more keep coming in, and I say the majority of the issue you do with wiring is not connecting them, although that does take a long time. It is the constant cleanup and redirection so it's all orderly and doesn't flex around. You get your little milestones and celebration in there when you can. Like right now, we know at least all the bottom wires are ran correctly, but now you got to just organize all that from the top. And in the bottom, we still have an issue with the wires dangling and hanging. One of the big requirements for marine grade, if you look at ABYC standards and some of the other ones, is the constant shaking and flexing. Now, marine grade wire has a high strike count to deal with the wave shutter and the constant stuff, because the boat's not undergoing wave shutter and all that stuff from like high speeds. It's undergoing constant shuttering, getting towed down the road by a trailer. And because that has a higher strand count than, say, Romix or any sort of construction grade wire, the smaller the strand, the higher the strand count, and the more flexible the wire is, and also the more the wire is able to be flexed over time. But you still want to minimize the flex. You don't want to just bouncing around in there, because eventually it will degrade and wire strands will start to crack, and then you'll just have to deal with what comes with that. It will ultimately lead to you having to rewire the whole boat. And if you have noticed, this is the kind of job you only want to do once. So we start running into snags. What do we do about the hanging wires that we know are going to flop around and possibly catch a branch when it's going down the water in a river? We can get around a lot of it with zip ties, but some of it we're going to have to fabricate our own brackets. Right now we just fabricated that. We're going to shove it up there in the aluminum C-channel there, and some of the tubing that we use to brace and install the actual live well itself will make really good anchor points for that. For other ones, we're going to try and just have overlaying bars that hold the wire inside the channel. We're going to run those every so often. We can shape them at will. And to give it a little bit of extra security, we go ahead and we put a little EVA foam strips that are just extra strips from stuff we had left over in the shop. Meanwhile, the wiring mess up there is still an OCD person's nightmare. All the nerves in a body structure are nothing without its proper attachment to the brain. So configuring the brain is what it is. It takes a while, but it's the last and final step before we can actually test this thing out and see what we have to do, what adjustments we need to make. We'll figure it out, but it has to get on the water. Man, I'll tell you, that wiring job sucked, but it was so worth it to finish. just can't begin to appreciate how good these lights look until they're out in the golden light, nearing the evening. Man, we're out there with our phones like tools, trying to capture it in the best light we can. Just, it looks fantastic, but how does it actually do on the water? We're wondering. After everything, did we displace the weight right? We're gonna go ahead and test it to its max because we know when we give it away, whoever gets this is probably gonna do the same. So here we go. About 700 pounds between 3 individuals. A battery. We're gonna fill the live well up. We got those 2 giant battery packs that are 116 pounds a piece in the back, plus the motor. I think the displacement of it back there definitely made it lean back. It did it all, but actually Pond-Tini has an option for a 3rd tune, and we should have just did that. So we're gonna go ahead and stick a 3rd tune on it to balance it out. But we at least know that even when it's overloaded like right now, it still does pretty good. It's actually still very stable. Right now it's just a giant party barge. We're just messing around. Before we continue talking about the test, huge shout out to Plashlights for making the sickest lights I've ever seen and installed and witnessed in person. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so it's a bit of a lowrider. I know you guys are gonna say that because that's what we said when we saw it. Not a big deal. We're gonna get the 3rd pontoon, we're gonna stick it up there, it's gonna line right with the live well, and we're gonna be kosher. The motor did pretty good. It has a lot of torque, even with 3 people and a full load. When you really cranked on it, it really just, the sheer amount of thrust and torque alone pushed it crack. But in similar situations on bigger pontoon boats where the pontoons weren't in the water so deep, they actually got 7 or 8 miles out of an hour out of that motor, just kind of kicking around. The motor is absolutely quiet, you don't hear nothing, but really you don't even hear a loud whining, and that's really prominent in a lot of the other motors. You just didn't hear it. All right, I want to get it taken off. I want to get the water taken off. Hold on. All right, go. That was awesome. Now we're controlling this whole thing for our phone. But it's gonna want us to calibrate. It'll tell you to turn the motor head. Let's turn it all the way to the right first. Okay, now we calibrate. Watch it. It's doing its thing. It's in the green, and when it's done, it'll go back to red. Blue, it's almost done. Calibrating all the way. Yellow. There it is, red, it's done. And now, let's just go. Oh, hold on. Check us out.
Oh, are you gonna steer me with it?
Yeah, this will listen to me, unlike you.
Oh, see, I didn't even see that up there.
That's what we came over here with. That's why it took so long.
Because you were pulling them before, weren't you?
The light is out of the water. Following that thing. Barely, part of it.
How far is that thing gonna connect, Mike?
I don't know, let's test it out. It's a pretty good question. Ron, you're on your own. You're gonna figure it out. We're still connected. Still connected. You're pretty far out there. Is it turning you?
You're driving with the Pronav?
Yeah. I'm getting bit up by bugs. Where's it going?
Going backwards.
Oh, where's it going now?
Now you're going forward. Now you're going right. Now you're forward. You're dead center now. You were. Now I'm going right.
Now you're like the Geico commercial.
Now we're going left a little bit.
Sweet.
The average Joe is going to have a nightmare. We have to have 2 different apps to run this boat.
One for the lights, one for the motor, or for the motor.
Dude, they're all over the pontoons. It's kind of funny. Let's take it back.
Well, very cool, guys. Thanks for pulling up.
Hey, no, thank you for checking it out. I thought this thing was pretty rad, but I didn't get to actually touch it. But tomorrow I will, during the day, and we're actually going to see how it fishes. Part of my theory is that this will make a really good family/fishing combo. Something is really hard to do out of any other tiny boat, but we will do it this time with this one. Stay tuned for the final review coming up next.